In a world where the news gets twisted, Jon and Tom stand tall, never wished it. MAGA hats on, they take the stage. With laughter and facts, they break the cage. Unsanctioned voices feel less and bold, turning the tide, watch the truth unfold. Unsanctioned America, hear their call. With a duo on fire, they'll never fall. From the heart of the right, they bring the fight, lasting through the night, shining light. Oh, debating the nonsense of the woke parade. With every punchline, conservative trade, they tackle the issues with humor and wit. In Unsanctioned America, they won't quit. So tune in tight, let the laughter ignite, as Jon and Tom clash through the political night. Unsanctioned America, hear their call. With a duo on fire, they'll never fall. From the heart of the right, they bring the fight, lasting through the night, shining light. So tune in tight, let the laughter ignite, as Jon and Tom clash through the political night. Unsanctioned America, hear their call. With a duo on fire, they'll never fall. From the heart of the right, they bring the fight, lasting through the night, shining light. Oh, together they rise, wear their pride like a crown. In Unsanctioned America, never backing down. Unsanctioned America, hear their call. With a duo on fire, they'll never fall. From the heart of the right, they bring the fight, lasting through the night, shining light. Oh, shining light.
You will not laugh. You will not cry. You will learn by the numbers.
Happy Pride. Happy Pride Month, and actually, let's declare it a summer of pride.
So you're a killer?
Sir, yes, sir!
Let me see your war face.
Sir!
You got a war face? Ah! That's a war face. Now let me see your war face.
Ah!
Bullshit. You didn't convince me. Let me see your real war face. Ah!
I hear it and I know, I know you wanna take.
You will be a weapon. You will be a minister of death, praying for war. But until that day, you are pukes. You are the lowest form of life on earth. You are not even human fucking beings. You are nothing but unorganized, grabastic pieces of amphibian shit.
How to abracadabra, these bitches know I got answers the way I...
It looks to me like the best part of you ran down the crack of your mama's ass and ended up as a brown stain on the mattress. I love working for Uncle Sam.
I love working for Uncle Sam.
Lets me know just who I am.
Lets me know just who I am.
1, 2, 3, 4, United States Marine Corps.
1, 2, 3, 4, United States Marine Corps.
Welcome to Unsanctioned.
I, Commala Harris, am heartbroken by the hurricane. It breaks my heart. My heart is heartbroken. So to help the victims of the hurricane, I'll be sending another $600 million to Ukraine. That way, you can feel safe knowing you're making a difference to people in need.
Oh, tell them about our immigration policy.
What's that?
Tell them about our immigration policy.
Oh, I get it. So since we've been helping the victims of the hurricane by sending money to illegal immigrants so they have the help they need, we encourage everyone from North Carolina to go to Mexico and come back as an illegal immigrant. That way, we can help you help yourself. Hang on, I'm getting a call. Hello?
Hi, this is Iran. We heard you're trying to help the hurricane victims.
Yes, I am.
Well, we think that you can help them by sending money to us.
Oh, that's a great idea. I sure do love helping those hurricane victims. Let me just ask you, are you in need?
Yes.
Okay, great. Then I hereby send you $1.2 billion in aid in order to help the victims of the hurricane.
Oh, fantastic. Trust me, this will go a long way for the stranded people in North Carolina.
I sure do love helping victims of the hurricane who just so happen to be victims of a hurricane.
Wow.
Oh my God!
You know-
Adult Swim killed her. They killed her.
Yeah, that's Adult Swim. So we didn't make that. That was Adult Swim. We just think that when people who are normally liberal are pointing out the irony of the United States government ignoring essentially victims of hurricanes by giving them $750, many of which have been denied the aid of $750, so that they can give billions upon billions upon billions to foreign countries, is mind-boggling, even for elitist liberals in Hollywood.
Yeah.
I mean, that's what it comes down to. So what a crazy thing. And what a crazy ad that is, as an intro by the Trump team at a rally, at a Trump rally, huh, Tom?
Yes, they're playing that before Trump rallies now. They're playing that one, and there's two other ones that they're playing before the Trump rallies. But that one right there, I mean, let's make the military great again. And to the president's point, I mean, look at that. Look at what's happened. I mean, God.
Yeah. Well, let me tell you what I love about this is, number one, they are essentially now not allowing the liberals to hide behind political correctness, which has been their shield, right?
Yeah.
Oh, you can't say that. We'll cancel you. Well, they've tried to cancel Trump by using lawfare, by coming after him financially, by all this fake, using the mainstream media. They've even tried to shoot him dead.
Yeah.
But none of that now is going to hold back. Trump is taking off the gloves, and now he's pointing out the absolutely just craziness of the Democratic Party, their platforms, and their whole agenda, beginning with this crazy trans agenda in the military. Yeah. So he's not holding anything back anymore. Welcome to another episode of Unsanctioned America. This is episode 245, October 11, 2024. Of course, between our last show and today, we have had several storms, which have prevented us from coming on earlier. But here we are. I'm school board member John Arguello, and this is my great friend, citizen Tom Lord over here on the other side. And we are going to get through the news and the things coming and going in the United States right now, especially in the world of politics. Yeah. So we're going to do a quick prayer, and then we're going to get right down to the show. Lord, thank you so much. We truly appreciate your blessings. Having protected at least our community here in Central Florida for the most part from Hurricane Milton. We pray for the people who have been in the path of the storm, the victims still in North Carolina trying to get away out of their situations there, trying to dig themselves out of the havoc that the Helene made for them out there. And we pray that this government gets its stuff together and starts helping Americans before anything else. That is their sworn duty. When you swear that oath, that's what they are swearing, to uphold our Constitution. And our Constitution is meant to protect us. So we hope that they uphold their oaths. Lord, we appreciate it truly. Even in the worst of circumstances, we know that you are the one true God and that you provide us with the platform to do this. And we pray that more Americans begin to understand that their rights, the reason that this country is special, is because their rights come from you and no one else. In your son's name, Jesus Christ. Amen.
Amen.
What do we got, Tom?
Let's get into the news. And I know a lot of the news has been the hurricanes. We're going to save the hurricane talk for the most part for the Florida show, which will air tomorrow night. So stay tuned for that, because we have a lot to talk about, especially the hurricanes. We're going to talk about some other things that have happened across the nation and the big headlines or the big news as far as we see it. First up is Kamala Harris had this big interview on 60 Minutes. And on this interview, a lot of things happened during this interview, but first of all, she decided to say what country she believes is the U.S.'s greatest adversary. And this is what she had to say, John.
Which foreign country do you consider to be our greatest adversary?
I think there's an obvious one in mind, which is Iran. Iran has American blood on their hands, okay? This attack on Israel, 200 ballistic missiles. What we need to do to ensure that Iran never achieves the ability to be a nuclear power, that is one of my highest priorities.
So if you have proof that Iran is building a nuclear weapon, would you take military action?
I'm not going to talk about hypotheticals at this moment.
Yeah, but she
hypothetical. She can't. She can't talk about hypotheticals. She can't talk about theticals. She can't talk about ethicals. There's nothing going on in that mind of Kamala Harris. That's clear. What were you going to say, Tom?
No, I was going to say, well, she's already spoke about how she would treat Iran. She said this a couple of months ago.
Message to Iran.
Don't.
As President Biden said, just don't.
Exactly. One word. Pretty straightforward.
What's the...
Yeah, pretty straightforward. But
pretty straightforward.
That's what you get there, you know.
I think that she spoke more effectively about what her policies would be when the Biden-Harris administration gave billions of dollars in cash. Yeah. To me, hey, if cash talks and BS walks, she's walking and talking, right? She's talking a lot to the American people nonsense, but she's walking with the Iranian people by giving them billions of dollars, the Iranian government, the Ayatollah over there. So that to me was even far more persuasive in terms of what her policy would be with the Middle East, as well as her markedly anti-Israel stances that she's taken.
Yeah. And I'll tell you this, John, I mean, if you think about it, Obama gave, pallets of cash to Iran. We've given back money to Iran during the Biden administration. She claims that they are the greatest threat to the United States. Well, you guys are the ones who gave them the money to become that great threat. So,
yeah. Well, she just, what I was referring to was the money that she just gave to Lebanon, which is going to go to Hezbollah, which is on the proxy of Iran. So, I mean, like in the heat of the aftermath of the storm, she's giving 160 big bucks to Lebanon is crazy. Right? I mean, it's just crazy. And then she offers $750 to Americans in the same, turn. I mean, it's just, come on, what's going on?
Yeah, I know many people in that area, the Carolinas, that heard about this $750, told them what they could do with that $750. And I don't blame them for that. It's just terrible the way that we treat our own people. Yet we're giving money away to Ukraine. We're giving money away to the Iranians. We're giving money away to everybody except for the American people that are suffering, and it's a shame. Damn shame.
Yeah, it really is.
But President Trump called out something that happened during this 60 Minutes interview as well. And, it was an answer that she gave to a question about Israel. President Trump went on Twitter, or X, I'm sorry, and said that her answer was crazy or dumb, and it was replaced with another answer in order to save her or at least make her look better. And he's asking that CBS have their license taken away for election interference. And this is it. He posted both the videos. This first one here, John, is the actual answer she gave to this question about Israel.
But it seems that Prime Minister Netanyahu is not listening.
Well, Bill, the work that we have done has resulted in a number of movements in that region by Israel that were
who is she looking at off to the
very
side?
Much prompted by
Right.
or a result of many things, including our advocacy for what needs to happen in the region.
But it seems...
Well, I'm wondering if that's the cue cards.
Anybody understand what the hell she's talking about?
No, it made no sense. But listen to the second video. This is what they actually played. This is what President Trump is calling out.
But it seems that Prime Minister Netanyahu is not listening.
We're not going to stop pursuing what is necessary for the United States to be clear about where we stand on the need for this war to end.
Even that didn't make that much sense necessarily.
No. And
but
it's a shame. Shame on CBS.
Shame on it. Talk about getting exposed. How could they do that? That's a news organization. You're not supposed to edit people's quotes at all, right? Like even in small changes, like you're not supposed to make small changes to tense. Here they are changing the entire scope and providing a cohesive thought almost in her mouth. They're putting the words in her mouth. They should absolutely, now that should be considered a campaign contribution, and they should have to disclose that on her records.
Yeah, absolutely. And you know, John, they're so desperate. They are so desperate to get her elected. You know, we knew that they cooperated with each other. They coordinate with each other, these media outlets and the Democrat Party. But right now, they are so desperate because she's doing so poorly that they will do things like this, blatant acts like this.
Edit her
not
into
even
a
care.
normal person. Yeah, edit her into a normal person. They might have, I mean, what were they going to do? Use AI to make Biden look 20 years younger? That's just as dishonest as what they've done here. As a former journalist, as a recovering journalist, it is mind-boggling to me that they would change her answer. I mean, that's the most dishonest journalism I have ever seen. I mean, at least when you're lying as a journalist, because that's the common thing, right? These days, MSNBC, they lie all the time. When they lie about something, they're not translating from English to English like they are for Commala. They're translated on her behalf. They took what she said. They realized it was absolutely ridiculous. Then they created a quote out of thin air for her. That is, I mean, it's practically a crime. It should have to be disclosed on her financial records as a campaign contribution. Or it should be a campaign violation if she does not.
Look at all the times that they lied about Biden and his mental health. Look at the earrings we talked about from the debate where we suspected that they are those special earrings that transmit, you know, radio frequencies so she can hear what people are telling her to say.
It's an earpiece.
Yeah, it's just.
And then we've seen a whole bunch of videos where she's talking into an earpiece.
Yeah.
Right? And all you see is the earrings. That's all you see is the earrings that she had. So you got to question.
I just hope that the American people are smart enough to see this stuff for what it is and just reject this woman. I mean, just, oh, please. I can't imagine what it's going to be like if she wins the presidency. It'd just be.
I mean, they lied. They were okay with having somebody who was very clearly mentally deficient in Joe Biden. Now, is it that much of a stretch to have somebody who happens to be an imbecile be there? I mean, at the end of the day, I think that the Democrats have come to the they've become ready to admit that it's not, these guys are just figureheads for their party. Yeah. They're not the ones running the show. And so if they've come to that conclusion themselves and they can admit that and they can vote for it, then, I mean, who cares what Kamala Harris says at this point? Yeah, and that's what you have to, that's the conclusion that you have to come to in order to vote for her.
They prefer a puppet. So, yeah. I mean, you know, we have a puppet, we have one in a Commala, and that's good enough for us, you know, because they could have had RFK. But RFK wouldn't have followed the agenda that they wanted, so.
Well, he's not a corporate monkey, and that's what they want, right? They want these corporate monkeys because the Democrat Party is now the party of corrupt corporations.
Yeah, absolutely. Well, President Trump is making headlines. This breaking news, John, that just came out yesterday. President Trump was at the Detroit Economic Club, and he announced that as part of his tax cut plan, he will make interest on car loans fully deductible. This is amazing, John. Watch this.
Today I am also announcing that as part of our tax cuts, we will make interest on car loans fully deductible. So a man who's, a lot of you people are in the car industry. Actually, I met a lot of them backstage. What do you do? I'm in the car industry. But a lot of them, and I told him about it. He's a very knowledgeable person. He said, here's a guy, he's done it all his life. He's sitting right over there. I don't want to embarrass him. But he said, where did you come up with that idea? That's the coolest thing. It's like the paperclip again, right? It's like the paperclip. Somebody comes up with the paperclip and everybody says, why the hell didn't I think of that, right? Somebody came up with a paperclip, I guess made a lot of money. And other people said, gee, but he said, I've been in the car industry all my life. I've never thought about that. So we're going to make it fully deductible, the interest payments. That's going to revolutionize your industry. This will stimulate massive domestic auto production and make car ownership dramatically more affordable for millions and millions of working American families. This is a phenomenal thing, if I do say so myself.
This is tremendous. This is a gigantic tax cut for the country. This is a multi-directional financial policy that impacts every American practically, right? Because the auto industry is such a huge industry in the United States. This helps it leaps and bounds. We're talking about a 7. What is the interest rate on a car loan? Sometimes you can have an interest rate that's very high. Yes. So what percentage of that interest rate is going to be like for young kids when they buy a car, they're looking at 18 or 19. I remember that young privates in the Army were getting like interest rates of like 29% on cars when they would get that new Dodge Challenger. I mean, can you imagine that kind of tax deduction? That's great because now he's not taking away from the companies, right? The company still makes their money. The bank still makes their money. Now the American gets back their money, yes. Right? And it's the government that is held in check through reduced taxes. I love that. I love this. This helps so many people. It helps the auto industry, the people who work in it, the people who are far away from the auto industry but are still impacted by it, people who make parts, manufacturing, all those things. It helps everybody. This is a huge, huge tax cut. And I would imagine that the average person is going to save 8 to 10% of which is what their interest rate is. So 8 to 10% of your interest rate on your car note, right? Yeah. It could be, you're talking about like 2 years worth of your payments on your car, right? That you're taxed at that. Who knows how they're going to do it? Who knows how they're going to write the legislation? Yeah. But when you think about it, you are paying mostly interest for the first several years of paying your car. And that's just huge. That's huge.
John, if you think about it,
thousands of dollars.
President Trump's plan, his plan is all about helping the American people. You think about it, no tax on tips, no tax on overtime, and then now with the making your car loan interest rates deductible. This is just his whole plan is about helping the American people, helping the American economy.
The American people and the American economy.
Yeah.
Right? Like those are his concerns. Like I want us to have a safe country, right? So it's national defense, national security, borders, right? Yeah. The economy has to be healthy, and then all of that comes back to the American people, like you said.
Yeah. And that's what we need. That's what the country needs right now.
Absolutely.
And you're going to get that with President Trump. Kamala Harris came out and said that she's going to do no tax on tips too. But you have to ask yourself, she's been in office for the past 3.5 years. Why hasn't she done it already?
She could propose it today.
Yes.
Right?
And she's not doing it now. That. So you have to ask yourself, who do you believe is going to actually do it? And President Trump, I believe him wholeheartedly because a lot of the things that he said he was going to do in his first term, he did. And the other things that he wanted to do that he couldn't do, we know why he couldn't do them, and that was because of the obstruction of Democrats. But, man, this is huge. Just huge.
Yeah, when he talks about ideas that he's got, right? And I believe completely that this may have been his idea, right? Like it may have spurred in his mind. And he wants those things in power. He wants those things enacted, right? He wants those ideas empowered. He wants those things to take flight. He's not like a politician who says, oh, I want to do this. And, but they don't really mean it. No, he means it. When he says, I want to do this, he means it because for him, this is part of his legacy, right? Like he's a builder. He sees something in the future. He looks at an empty lot and he sees a giant golden skyscraper. For him, achieving that means that there's actually a skyscraper there at the end of the day. It's not the idea. And so that's why he, makes things happen. And I think that the problem is now that everybody has to scramble. All the lobbyists in D.C., everybody on K Street now has to come together and be like, oh, my gosh, well, what does this mean? How do we benefit from it? Does this take away from us? Does it hurt us? Does it help us? All these people are now scrambling to try to see how this idea is going to impact them. That's what they don't like.
Yes.
It takes the power because now he's writing legislation. Now we have a president who is the vanguard of our legislative policies instead of the lobbyist, because that's the way it's been working for decades. The lobbyist comes, the lobbyist says, you know what? I represent cigarettes or marijuana. And so I'm going to write a law here. I want you to pass a law that says that marijuana, blah, 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 blah. Now he goes, he pays all the, all the politicians. Here's for the senator, gold bar to Senator Menendez. Here's here's you, cash, and cash here and whatever. And he's giving everybody campaign contributions. Then they all look at it. I guess it's not harmless. Let's just do it. But I'm not going to read 200 or 300 pages, much less read the tens of thousands of pages like of Obamacare. Remember, Nancy Pelosi said, you got to pass it, then read it. No, hell no. That's not how it works, right? So you have all these lawyers that are getting paid big money to write legislation that helps corporations. And now we have the world that we live in the United States. Yeah. And that's why they don't like Trump, because Trump would come up with an idea. He's like, why can't it be done? Okay, fine. Then he'll resolve that problem. And then he'll come up with the idea that with that problem resolved. And they don't want that. They don't want that. That takes it out of their control.
There's a lot of people that like things the way they are.
Yes. Yeah, people don't want. Yeah, exactly. Absolutely, there is.
But, we talked about this, John. We just said it. There's a lot of what President Trump is proposing is to help the American people. And a lot of groups, and, they like to divide us up into groups. A lot of the groups are moving towards President Trump. Latinos, blacks, specifically Latinos, too. And but one person saying that the reason why Latinos are moving towards President Trump is because of internalized racism. And this is a journalist who's saying this. This journalist's name is Paula Ramos, and she is the lesbian daughter of Jorge Ramos, if you know who that is. And here she is here.
So I think
I'm going to silence her noise because it really doesn't matter what she has to say. But anyway, she released it really doesn't. But she released a book recently, and in this book, she says that she found that tribalism, traditionalism, and political trauma were the three driving forces behind Latinos moving towards President Trump. She said, really understanding.
I'm sorry.
The sort of racial baggage that I believe a lot of Latinos, including myself, and a lot of us are carrying from Latin America. What it means to sort of been colonized for so many years, the weight of colonization, that in and of itself, I believe, creates a lot of internalized racism, a lot of colorism, and then manifests in American politics in so many ways. She also goes on to say, and that's how you can explain the fact that even someone like Donald Trump feels so comfortable going to the Bronx, talking to a group of black Latinos and Latino Trump supporters, because he believes that he can sort of tap into a racial and ethnic grievance that is very familiar. She's out of her mind. You know what I mean?
I'm so outraged by this story. First of all, she's just stupid. You said, you're the lesbian daughter of Jorge Ramos. She's not just a lesbian. She's an elitist, by basically raised by a celebrity. She's gay, beyond liberal, like all these reasons. You would take, it's like a judge overseeing your case, right? And it's like, oh, well, I represent company A, and the plaintiff or the defendant is representing company B, and the judge's entire retirement is in company B. I mean, she's completely bought in. She came up with an answer in her mind, and then she went and she wrote a report or a book to find that answer. She did all her research to come up with the answer that she already had. Did she have to write this book in order to come up with that thought? Of course not. That's what she believes. But let me talk to you as somebody, this is what I studied, my academic life, international affairs. I was very interested in Latin America. I know a lot about Latin American histories. The relationship between Nicaragua, which is where my family's from, and the United States is extremely complex. They've been involved and intertwined since shortly after independence for Nicaragua from Spain. It probably has one of the most complex relationships with the United States, even though it's a small country. We've had Marines. They put in power the dictator of Nicaragua. Okay, there's a ton of complex relationship stuff. The bottom line is Latin America, from Mexico to the furthest southest part of South America, Chile and Argentina, is almost as diverse as the United States. Okay? Our skin colors are from the dark black to the lightest white. Okay? But there have been a far more successful culture in terms of having mixed cultures successfully without the strife and drama of the United States necessarily, right? At least before Obama, right? Because before Obama, we had gotten to like somewhat of a promised land where you could see the end of racism, right? I remember in 2006, or you could see like the end of racism approaching, right? Today, racism is probably the worst it's been in the United States in decades.
The late 90s,
right?
John. The late 90s, we saw it coming to an end,
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, we could see it coming to an end. We saw an end of racism coming toward. There was a finish line at some point, and for some reason, the Democrats brought it back up. They wanted to revive the monster of racism. The Democrats performed CPR on the monster of racism, okay, and revived it and turned it into a Godzilla. Yeah. Now, Jorge Ramos' daughter here. I don't even know what her name is, but Ramos' daughter here. Okay, she is trying to do exactly now. She's trying to pretend that we have this problem in Latin America, where in Latin America it's very clear, it's very kind of out in the open what things are and whatever. But when I talk to I have a friend, he's Dominican, right? And he's a black guy for Dominican, but Hispanic. And I have a friend who's a white guy who's Dominican, right? And I mean, I say white and black because that's how we would refer to them in the United States, but they don't say that in the Dominican Republic. They're just Dominican, And in Nicaragua, we have the same thing. Like everybody's either you're Nicaraguan, yeah, or are you from the Atlantic coast or from the Pacific coast? I'm Nicaraguan. I mean, that's what they say. So it's not like people are like geographically dispersed, and then that's how they identify as. It's all about just national. It's a national identity that they have, and in the United States, for some reason, the Democrats have been wanting to get away from that. Now, she's using this very successful multicultural situation in Latin America and trying to say that the reason that we have that success, the reason that we have that this kind of like somewhat of it's not homogenous, you can't say that at all, but it's somewhat of a linked cultural relationships between South and Central and Mexico is because of racism. No, it's not. It's just because they haven't had the drama. The culture doesn't lend itself necessarily to the drama of this elitist viewpoint that she's got. There's no colonizing. We don't have the same, like in the United States, like the trauma of slavery, right, has caused upon the population of the United States. And I mean, even today, white or black, right? Because it's like a dark cloud over all Americans, right? And you're not allowed to forget about it, right? I imagine it's like what Germans have in terms of Nazism, right? Well, in Latin America, we don't have any of that. They don't have it. It's missing. And so the reason that we like Trump is because we don't have that trauma of the racism. We Latin Americans and Hispanics very quickly already know if you're a really dark guy, right, then your nickname is going to be black guy. If you're a fat guy, your nickname is going to be fat guy. If you have a big nose, your nickname is going to be big nose, right? And so everything is so out in the open, and people have been so expressive, and I'm talking about that's universal throughout Latin America.
Right.
So we just don't have like this we've never had this political correctness. And that's why I challenge you this. Watch Telemundo or Univision, and I don't mean the news channel because that's just straight hot garbage. I'm talking about watch the soap operas and look how edgy it is and how dramatic it is. And then you have people laughing at home about it. Watch the game shows. And it's nothing but like women in skimpy outfits. It's very highly sexualized, a lot of dancing and whatever, people of different colors and whatever. if you're ugly, they'll tell you you're ugly on the TV show. It's just a very open society type of situation.
Yeah.
So what she's saying is so categorically false. Every Hispanic would know it.
Yeah.
Every Hispanic across Latin America would call her out on her being a complete and total liar. We're talking too much about it, but it's just something that I'm so familiar with. It's just something I'm so familiar with. It's astounding that this kind of fraud would be peddled on a news channel.
Well, you know,
and that's
John,
exactly what it is.
What she does, and this is Paula Ramos, this is her name. She pushes agendas, and that's a reason why I wanted to mention the fact that she's lesbian.
I still don't know her name.
Yeah, that's why I wanted to mention the fact that she's a lesbian. Not because I care. I could care less, about lesbians or gays. What you do in your life is your business. We all have to answer to our maker when the time comes, but for the actions of our lives. But she pushes agendas. She pushes the LGBTQ agenda. She works for Vice, and she does assignments for CNN and MSNBC. She pushes the LGBTQ agenda. She pushes the Latinx agenda, trying to change the culture of Latinos and calling them Latinx instead of Latino. She's just a complete, total disgrace. She's just a horrible human being, and she thinks she knows better than you.
Well, the funny thing about this whole Latinx phrase is that it has it polls at about 2% popularity. 2% people, 98% of people hate the term, right?
Yeah.
And it floats around that number. I wish I was joking, but I'm not even joking. It's that bad that it has a 2% approval rating among Hispanic people. Why? Because it's a fraud, right? It's like calling Americans British, right? It's as false as that. We're not British, right? It's just it'd be a fraud to say, well, these are British-ish people. No, we're not British-ish, right? We're Americans. And that's the same level of fraud. If somebody came, like an alien came, onto Earth, and somebody said, oh, well, these people are Russian, these people are French, these people are British, and these people over here are British-ish. Okay, it's the same level of lie as saying that, the reasons that we're pro-Trump. The reasons that we're pro-Trump is because we're pro-family. No. Latin Americans are pro-family, right? They're very pro-family. The majority of Latin Americans are pro-God. Okay. And Hispanics see how full of crap the Democrat Party is when it says it cares about families. We know they don't care about families. What they care about is power. Right. And I don't think that Hispanics necessarily are offended by that, but they are offended by the fact that you want to take something that they do love, which is their child, and rob them of their gender identity, and then rob them of the language of their inherited language or this descendant language that they all have, right, of Spanish. No. It's like, are you going to take the O at the end of Arguello and turn it into an X? No, I don't think so. You're not going to do that to me.
Well,
right?
the whole basis of the Spanish language is based off of masculine and feminine, right? So
yes, the whole language is a feminine. There's also there's forms. There's proper forms and there's improper form, informal, right? No. And then it's gendered, and so those things make a difference. It lends itself to the language itself lends itself to a little bit of eloquence just in its use of that way, right? It's just ridiculous. She's a fraud. That's this person. She's a fraud. And we spent way too much time talking about her, but I just think it's really interesting that she should be thrown into the street, ridiculed for this type of fraudulent story.
Yeah, she wrote a book. It just came out, but I'm not going to tell you the name of it because I don't want you to go out and check it out. Just please don't. Anyway, speaking of the hurricanes, and there's just one thing we're going to talk about the hurricanes, because there's one person who's very happy that the hurricane happened, especially Helene, that destroyed North Carolina, and that's David Axelrod. He's a Democrat strategist. We all know David Axelrod. Well, he was on the Clay and Buck show, and this is what he had to say.
Sure, a bunch of these folks who've had their homes and lives destroyed elsewhere in western North Carolina, in the mountains there, are going to be as easy to wrangle for the Trump campaign. Sure, a bunch of these.
So basically what he said was that these people, the rural poor people, are going to have a hard time going to vote for President Trump. Meanwhile, the rich liberals are going to have no problem going to vote for Kamala Harris.
That's horrendous.
Yeah, so he's basically saying that all Trump supporters are poor white trash. That's basically what he's trying to say in the nicest form. But David Axelrod for you, John.
And that he's just happy. I mean, it's just, this is why Americans are falling out of love with the Democrat Party. And I'm talking about Americans that don't care about politics, right? Like, if you are a middle of the road blue collar worker, and then you have politicians talking about the country, you used to like Bill Clinton because Bill Clinton was like this average seeming guy, good personality, seemed like an average American guy. But David Axelrod is exactly who the Democratic Party is. An elitist, Ivy League type, who just has no respect for the American people that are outside of his perceived class.
Yep. That's basically it right there, John. That's David Axelrod for you. All right, so before we go across the nation, we have this important message from President Trump.
If anything, would you have done something differently than President Biden during the past 4 years?
There is not a thing that comes to mind in terms of, and I've been a part of most of the decisions that have had impact.
All right, here's the proper intro, but I knew you were going to laugh at that. That was a great commercial, by the way. That was awesome.
So succinct, man. Yeah, listen, the bottom line is, if you think that Biden has been a great manager of the United States government, then, by all means, elect Kamala Harris. It's pretty bad when they can hang you on your record like that.
So easily. I mean,
So easily. With just saying that, I agree. I agree with what we've done over the last 3 years.
All right, John. So this is a quick reminder for you and for our people watching at home, that MSNBC is the world's leading spreader of disinformation. Remember, never forget that they lied to you about the millions of illegals. They lied to you about Biden's health. They lied to you about Hunter's laptop, Russiagate, and now they're lying about hurricane relief. And they're also trying to bring down Elon Musk. Watch this.
Yeah, Rubio's a good case study of this phenomenon. I mean, he clashed with Trump some during the 2016 primary, we remember. After Trump was elected president, he largely fell in line, but did break with him on a few things, on some foreign policy issues, as well as on the Intel Committee. He would occasionally separate himself from Trump. Those days are over. And some of this may have been his ill-fated bid to be Trump's vice president. We know he was in the final 3 or 4 candidates for that. It's also his read on Florida, which has become increasingly Trumpified, and clearly he thinks he can't break with Trump at all if he wants to have an electoral future there. So Andrew Ross Sorkin, another person who has decided not to break with Donald Trump at all, is Elon Musk. And I will say that Elon Musk is perhaps the world's leading spreader of disinformation, including outright lies about hurricane relief, about illegal immigrants. We've seen him do that in the last couple of weeks. And then on Saturday, he steps on stage with Donald Trump with one of the less athletic leaps I've ever seen as he bounded his way on stage with Trump. Tell us, and then spoke briefly on the former president's behalf. Tell us about that moment and what sort of he does not have much of a vertical, Mr. Musk.
These guys are just unbelievable. They're saying that Elon Musk is the biggest spreader of disinformation. No. MSNBC is, the things that Elon Musk is saying are true. I mean, come on.
You're so full of crap. I mean, with the evidence that they list as his jumping ability, look at this evil bastard, Elon Musk. Look, what is this vertical jump there? 20 inches? Oh my gosh, what a shame. What a terrible man. I mean, it's pretty bad when the opposition has to talk about your vertical leap and talk about how athletic you are. in order to make you look bad. The guy's a billionaire. I want to see Warren Buffett go up on stage and show off his vertical leap at a Harris rally. That's what I want to see. I want to see any of these liberals come out and do their vertical leap and then start talking and make a speech. That's what I would like to see. I mean, come on. It's so, these guys, you can just tell that they've really lost it. They have nothing left. These are people struggling. They're in death throes, you know? They just can't come up with anything. And you mentioned in the pre-show how important Elon Musk is to our point in history right now.
Yes,
right?
Absolutely.
And I couldn't agree with you more. I'll let you talk about that. But I mean, this is a huge, this is a substantial shift. Elon Musk was not a Trump supporter. Yeah. Elon Musk got on board. And I'm sure that Elon Musk, and you could tell, Elon Musk on an intellectual level knew that Trump was the right guy, right? But he couldn't bring himself to make that jump using the same, theme, but to make that jump to Donald Trump because there were so many complexities in getting involved with Trump, right? You have to be a man. You can't be scared. You can't be scared. You can't be shy about what it is that his views are. It's either the United States or some other kind of bizarro world where every kid is genetically chemically castrated, right? Well, we don't want that. Yeah. Nobody wants that, right? And so then Trump gets shot in the head, right? They take a chunk out of his ear, and he gets up and he says, "Fight, fight, fight!" And at that point, a man like Elon Musk, who has so much on the line, said, "You know what? Come on, we can't hide from it anymore. I can't do it. I won't be okay with myself if I don't stand up for the country right now and do the right thing." And it's clear as day that in the last moments, what could have been Donald Trump's last moments, he tells the American people to fight for your country. Of course, I'm going to vote for that. Of course, I'm going to support that. And I got billions of dollars at my disposal, and I'm going to make an impact because I can't just talk the talk now. I'm going to have to move. So for me, even more important than what you were talking about is the fact that the guy was man enough with everything at stake to go ahead and do that. And so why don't you tell us about how much at stake he's got?
Yeah, I mean, Elon Musk, if you think about it, is one of the most important people of our generation. You think about past generations where you had Alexander Graham Bell or Henry Ford. That's what Elon Musk is to our generation, to this time now. We had others like Steve Jobs, but no one is impactful as Elon Musk. And, with SpaceX and Tesla, now with Twitter. And a lot of these news companies are very jealous of Elon Musk and what is now X, what used to be Twitter, because it is the number one news source, number one news app in the world right now. So a lot of these news outlets are very upset with him. You're going to see a lot more attacks with him. And yes, John, like you said, he couldn't sit back anymore and see what's happening to our country, not just in the political landscape, but in the house of ideas, you know what I mean? And the things that people are doing and saying right now. It's just outrageous. The attack on free speech, the attack on the Second Amendment. He just had to come out and fight back against it. And, I'm glad he did. And I'm glad for the contributions that he's made to our country. I mean, look at, the Tesla cars, Starlink satellites, and how he's helped out the people in the Carolinas that are suffering through the hurricane and what happened there. Just an amazing guy all around.
You know who else he's like? You know what I like about him? Because I have not been the biggest Elon Musk fan, right? Like, I'm always very reserved when it comes to Elon Musk and what his positives and negatives are, right? But here's what I do like about him. And I can respect. I don't have to like everything about Elon Musk, right? I don't have to like the fact that what took you so long, right? You're a disruptor to the entire economic possibilities of the United States. Your role is you're a disruptor, and yet you're getting on board late. Why are you not an early adopter of saving our country? Yeah. Right? And then I thought for a moment, let's go back into history. A lot of the founding fathers were not early adopters of independence, right? They were forced into that position because they saw where the country was going. They had to come to the emotional and intellectual understanding. This is where it comes. It either goes A or B, and I'm going to fight like hell to get whatever I believe is the right thing, which was American independence. So you look at people like John Hancock, right? John Hancock was a latecomer. It's not like he was immediately, like Sam Adams, right? So he's like, just like any one of our, and I have to remember, not everybody is like super conflict prone, or they're going to go with what's going on here? I'm going to fight for my country. Oh, we're turning on our torches. Let's get down to business. No, so a lot of people are far more measured, and that's what it took for him. But at least it did take to him, and he's on stage now, right? Now he's on stage with Trump. And the same with RFK. Yeah. You got to have respect, because at the end of the day, RFK might be considered a loyalist when it comes down to the founding fathers for a very long time. And then he's like, man, I'm not opposed to my heritage. I know how we got here. I know what's right. But the bottom line is it's not right anymore. No. Right. So I might have fought in the French and Indian War with the British, but now I know that the British are not my countrymen any longer. And so they're all getting on board, and I appreciate it. And I can't wait for more to join. I'm looking forward. It's not like those like the founding fathers were an exclusive club. It was just men who really had to make the decision at the last moment to really do something incredible. And I think it's time for that again. Yeah. And he's one of them. He's one of those. He's a name like John Hancock on that Constitution. Maybe not the most important figure. Maybe he's not like Donald Trump, right? He's not like the George Washington, but he's certainly on there. Yeah. And that I do appreciate.
Well, speaking of Democrats that are leaving the reservation, John, one other one is Anna Kasparian. And we've talked about her a couple of times on the show. Things she said that were really shocking to us. That might have signaled her switching sides and coming over and getting red-pilled, and maybe she has. She definitely sees Gavin Newsom's insane policies for what they are. She was recently on Jillian Michaels' podcast, and very interesting conversation. Let's listen.
Mm-hmm. Me too. Okay. Nothing was crazy like this, right? The homelessness, crime, the advocating for the medicalization of children, like advocating for late-term abort. Like, I'm never going to put a limit on. Like, what about 8 months? No, still no. I mean, still no. Mm-hmm. Like, what having a legal safe where? Come on. Like, there's a limit. Come on. Like, this madness. And I personally feel that I have lived through it, and Gavin Newsom is the tip of that spear. Yeah, for sure.
Go. Take me from the top to the bottom. No one does it like you do. And the concern is that it goes from California to a federal problem.
Yeah, that should be a concern. And in fact, some of the failed policies that we've implemented here, unfortunately, have been exported to other states.
Right.
And I'll give you a quick example, because we have literally squandered $25 billion on the homeless issue over the last 5 years. And I say squandered because there was recently an audit that wanted to see, like, okay, where did the money go? Because over the last 5 years, we've spent all this money, but homelessness has exploded. Homelessness has increased by 58% since 2013. Okay, so obviously this money isn't going where it was supposed to go.
Right.
And so it turns out that the state government started giving out these grants during, well, not during, but after 2020. Okay. And the grants they would give out to were these nonprofits, newly formed nonprofits in many cases, that were tasked with helping the homeless. Except some investigations found they weren't actually helping the homeless. And so when you have that experience here, right, in California, and you see how all of these politicians who have all of these friends, who run all of these nonprofits, who stole our money, when you see that, it's really hard to have these conversations about how we need to increase taxes on anyone.
But when Sean Hannity and Jesse Waters are willing to have a conversation about a hearing on health at the Capitol, and CNN tells me I'm anti-science, I mean, my God, where do you think I'm going to lean?
The first time I was pretty viciously demonized by my own side was when I opened up about, I've talked about this so many times, I feel bad repeating it, but it was really that big moment for me, right?
Yeah, mine was the you're a fat shamer because I said I didn't want Lizzo to die of diabetes. I was like, wait, when did we start celebrating?
And now she's getting healthy. Like, now she's working out.
I watched them attack her, by the way.
Yeah.
I'm just waiting for it to start. Or say she's on Ozempic. I saw that happen.
Oh,
she's
I
like,
saw
I'm
that
not
too.
on Ozempic. I was like, can we just...
It was unexpected, like super unexpected. In 2022, it was around March, I was walking my dog. It was not quite dark yet, but the sun was setting. As I'm walking my dog, I see these two guys that were just kind of like moving around weirdly. They seemed kind of manic, and their clothes were tattered. So I knew that they were probably homeless, and I also knew that they're probably on something just based on like the twitchy way they were acting. But as I was bending down to pick up my dog's mess, one of the guys like grabs me by my hips, and he had an erection.
Oh, God.
And just starts like humping me. And I didn't know what to do. Like, I was terrified. I didn't have a weapon on me.
Yep.
Like, I had no way of defending myself. I didn't know how far it was going to go because it's two guys. I'm by myself with my little dog. It was one of the most terrifying things ever because I'm pretty good at defending myself.
Anyway, we'll leave it at that. There was a lot to take in there, and it was a very long video. But Anna Kasparian, the thing that's very interesting about her, she is co-host of one of the most liberal outfits out there, the Young Turks, with a miserable human being named Cenk Unger. And just to see her, coming to her realizations, and you heard right there what made her start thinking differently about things. It's not about sides. It's about waking up, actually waking up, not woking up, and seeing things for how they are. And it's quite shocking to see someone as liberal as she is seeing things for what they are.
Yes. Do you have to be sexually assaulted in order to understand that there's a crime problem for yourself? For Democrats think that they're so empathetic to the world. Oh, I do this because, my cause is I'm so compassionate for people. Really? But you can't empathize with people who are victims of crime unless you go through the crime yourself? That's zero empathy. That's basically a selfish reaction to the situation. So she was sexually assaulted. Now she understands that there's a crime problem in California. Now she understands that she's also a real regular person in the world, that when you have a lawlessness, when you have a state like California, which is just allowing the lawlessness to abound, then you're going to get impacted by it.
Yeah.
Right? You can't even have a car parked on a street in San Francisco with a backpack in it because it's almost guaranteed to get broken into and that backpack taken out. But unless you go through that, you can't understand that is bad for the community at large. Democrats are such big hypocrites. And here's the thing, I can empathize. This is a horrendous, scary, even the story is hard to listen to, right?
Yeah.
But now she understands. Most importantly, and something that we feel here in Central Florida, the homeless problem is increasing here drastically, and they're spending tons of money on homelessness. So just like she's saying, who's getting all this money? Where's all that money going? This is all money that's going to their friends and power brokers. Same here.
Yeah.
So that speaks to a different problem. The problem isn't just the fact that we're spending all this money on homelessness, but the fact that we're giving it away to friends and, all these corrupt black holes, right? Black holes of corruption. And you throw money into there. It's just like the military industrial complex, right? Like 800 gajillion dollars into the military industrial complex, a black hole of corruption. We can't even track $1 trillion. Well, here it's like $5 million, she said, or a couple $1 million. And here in Central Florida, in Osceola County specifically, it's also millions of dollars that go to resolve these problems that never get resolved. Yeah. It's just like the toll roads in Florida. Absolutely. Right? It's like they say, oh, it's only until we pay for the road. Well, the roads have been paid for 100 times now. Yeah. So I'm glad that she's waking up. Eventually, every Democrat will be touched by the policies that they are trying to enact. And it's not until enough of them are touched by it consistently long enough in their daily lives that they will do anything about it and switch sides. Because why? I'll tell you, the biggest problem, the biggest burden that Americans have, that humans have in general, that's pride. They don't like to accept that they're wrong. And it takes a lot for these Democrats to admit, yeah. And unfortunately for Anna Kasparian, it took for her sexual assault for her to admit that these policies are out of control. So how many people in California have had to be sexually assaulted before she can admit as a television personality? I'm glad that it happened for Jillian Michaels because she's also a liberal.
Yeah.
All right. Jillian Michael. And she's been very outspoken. Like, you know what? We're celebrating people being fat as if that's the greatest thing in the world now. No, that's dumb. That's been my world. I understand that. Oh, well, I had to get into her world for her to understand that. Right. Yeah. And then they were also telling her she's also gay. Right. Yeah. Jillian Michaels is. So they're like, oh, listen, I'm gay, but you want to chop off kids' genitals now? What? I don't have anything. I'm not a some kind of anti-homosexual person or anything like that. But I have children. I know that she's not gay, but you want to chemically castrate them just in case? No, this is lunacy. So, Jillian Michaels is somebody who fits she checks every liberal box. And now she's turning away from it because now she knows, no, this is wrong. No. So I have one of two choices. I either lie about reality or I have to switch. And she made the switch. And hopefully an ex-Bavarian is making the same decision.
Yeah, we'll see. I mean, sometimes I guess that's what it takes, John, is that something bad has to happen to you for you to wake up. And then,
it's a shame.
They also say that if you're young and you're not liberal, you don't have a heart. If you're older and you're not conservative, you don't have a brain. So I don't know. I don't know. Maybe she's just getting older. But anyway, wanted to bring this up. Something that happened at the vice presidential debate, John. ABC News was lying, basically. Tim Walz in Minnesota did repeal a requirement to provide life-saving care to infants born alive after abortions. He also repealed any requirement for clinics to even record such births. There was no fact check on Tim Walz when he lied about this at the debate. Listen.
She was. And maybe you're free to disagree with me on this and explain this to me, but as I read the Minnesota law that you signed into law, the statute that you signed into law, it says that a doctor who presides over an abortion where the baby survives, the doctor is under no obligation to provide life-saving care to a baby who survives a botched late-term abortion. That is, I think, whether you're pro-choice or pro-abortion, that is fundamentally barbaric. And that's why I use that word, Nora, is because some of what we've seen, do you want to force Catholic hospitals to perform abortions against their will? Because Kamala Harris has supported suing Catholic nuns to violate their freedom of conscience. We can be a big and diverse country where we respect people's freedom of conscience and make the country more pro-baby and pro-family. But please.
Yes, Governor, please respond.
Look, this is one where there's always something there. This is a very simple proposition. These are women's decisions to make about their health care decisions, and the physicians who know best when they need to do this. Trying to distort the way a law is written to try and make a point, that's not it at all.
What was I wrong about, Governor? Please tell me, what was I wrong about?
That is not the way the law is written. Look, I've given
But how?
I've given this advice on a lot of things, that getting involved, that's been misread, and it was fact-checked at the last debate. But the point on this is there's a continuation of these guys to try and tell women or to get involved. I use this line on this, just mind your own business on this. Things work best when Roe versus Wade was in place. When we do a restoration of Roe, that works best. That doesn't preclude us from increasing funding for children. It doesn't increase us from making sure that once that child's born, like in Minnesota, they get meals, they get early childhood education, they get health care. So the hiding behind we're going to do all these other things when you're not proposing them in your budget. Kamala Harris is proposing them. She's proposing all those things to make life easier for families.
I asked a specific question, Governor. You gave me a slogan as a response.
It's not the case. It's not true. That's not what the law says. So they fact-checked it with President Trump.
Gentlemen, there's a lot to discuss. We have to move on.
Yeah. There was no fact check done there. And obviously, he did come up with a slogan. You couldn't understand what he was talking about, but he clearly denied this fact, but the truth is, John, that under Governor Tim Walz, babies were born alive in botched abortions and were left to die. And then he removed those reporting requirements, and here's the legislation. It's right here. So this man is just full of lies, John. That's what he does. Everything he said has been a lie. And he's been called out on so many lies at this point. I don't know why anybody would believe a thing that Tim Walz says. This guy is so unqualified to be vice president.
I mean, not as a Democrat. He's a professional liar.
Yeah.
So, I mean, that's what's one of the few requirements that you need.
Yeah, I mean, it's just ridiculous. You think that if Kamala Harris gets elected president, this guy is going to be second in line. That's a scary thought. I mean, just Kamala
really
herself is a scary thought, but this guy, ugh. Anyway.
Yeah. That is somebody who's willing to lie without hesitation and multiple times. Like, they'll stick it right there. Like, oh, well, what am I lying about? You're just lying. You're just lying. You're just lying. You're just lying. Oh, okay, well. I mean, this guy's he'll go down with the ship. And yeah, that's easy to fact check. Of course, the mainstream media is not going to fact check him. So, I think that they were hitting Vance by saying that this is barbaric, that abortion is barbaric. It's barbaric.
Yeah.
How can you not understand it's barbaric? Sometimes an abortion takes place by tearing out a baby from the womb piece by piece. If that's not barbaric, then what is? Chopping somebody's head off is not as barbaric as that is. So I'm not sure what the hesitation is to call this barbaric. And Tim Walz, a governor who signs into law, okay, the apparatus in which you report the fact that a baby was born alive and then allowed to die on a table is barbaric.
Yeah.
That's absolutely barbaric. He removed the mechanism which required someone to report that happened. That is barbaric. That is like Nazi level barbarism.
It's evil.
It's evil. There's no other word for it. It's evil. It's absolutely evil. So not only is he a liar, but this is a man that has evil policies that he's responsible for. And then he denies them, which to me tells him that he knows how barbaric that actually is. And he still supports it.
Well, he also supports tampons in the
men's bathroom. Yeah, absolutely. I wish that he would put one in his own, I don't know, nose.
Yeah, I think we're both thinking of another place he can put one too. But anyway,
yeah.
Talking about Merrick Garland and his garbage DOJ, John, they just awarded some applicants who failed the Maryland State Police math and fitness test $2.75 million. And here they are bragging about it. Here they are.
The Justice Department is announcing that we have secured a consent decree to resolve our findings that Maryland State Police discriminated against Black and female applicants by using hiring tests that unfairly and unlawfully excluded them from employment. Under this agreement, the police will adopt new tests, extend priority hiring opportunities to previously disqualified applicants after they complete the new and lawful selection process, and distribute $2.75 million in relief to people unfairly disqualified by the old test. Our investigation found that Maryland State Police's hiring practices for entry-level troopers violated Title VII of the Civil Rights Act of 1964, which prohibits employment discrimination based on race, sex, color, national origin, or religion. The old hiring tests that prompted the investigation here did not distinguish between candidates who could successfully perform the job of a trooper and those who could not. This made the test not just ineffective, but unlawful. The underrepresentation of Black and female applicants in law enforcement undermines public safety, runs contrary to the principle of equal opportunity, and fails to reflect the rich racial and gender diversity of our communities.
Enough of that. All right, John. So You know what they
Wow,
basically
this
said.
test. Wait, Tom, before you put it up,
Yeah.
it must have been really bad. This test, right? It must have been like horrendous. Like, are you black? Oh, yes, you are. Sorry, we can't hire you.
According to the DOJ, that's the case, John, and we have a couple of examples of the questions.
Oh, this is scary. This is
that
going to be some racist
they
thing
consider
stuff.
that they are racist questions. So this is the first one right here. An appliance store is burglarized and 21 clock radios with a total value of $1,050 are stolen. What is the average value of the radios? And
Oh,
you
that
have
is racist.
multiple choice, 5 answers. The DOJ says this question is racist. All
So
right?
asking somebody if 1,000 divided by 20 equals 1,000 is racist, huh? I mean, that was one of the answers. That was the last
Merrick
answer was
Garland's
1,000.
DOJ right there. I mean, that's
Wow.
it. Here's another
Wow.
example, John. We have one more here. This question was on the test. On Tuesday, Officer Jones worked the 3 p.m. to 11 p.m. shift. At 10:55 p.m., he was called to the scene of an accident where he remained until 1:30 a.m. How long past his regular shift did Officer Jones work? And you have 5 multiple choice questions there. Merrick Garland's DOJ considered this question racist.
Wow. Well, listen, time has always been very racist, right? Because it impacts everybody differently, right?
Yeah.
Like white people have more time than black people in a day, right? I think how many do white people get? Like 32 hours a day or something?
I don't know.
I don't. It's just, you know, that kind of racism is just intolerable.
Yeah, well, the truth of the matter is, John, and this is the problem that they're facing there in Maryland. 13 Baltimore City high schools had 0 students tested proficient on the 2023 state math exam. And I guess that's why it's racist, because we have a math problem over there in Maryland.
And that's just crazy. It's crazy that you cannot hire a cop if he knows how to do math in Maryland. I mean, if you can't tell time in Maryland, you are able to be a cop. But if you can tell time in Maryland, you cannot be a cop.
Yeah.
I mean, this is crazy. It's just like it's just like these commercials from the very beginning of the show, where you had to be a drag queen in order to join the military, which is why they're below on all of their, recruiting goals. It's horrendous.
Yeah. And finally, to wrap it up, John, over in Kansas, University of Kansas professor just blatantly said men who won't vote for Kamala Harris should be lined up and shot. Listen to this.
Smarter than girls, you got some serious problems. That's what frustrates me. There are going to be some males in our society that will refuse to vote for a potential female president because they don't think females are smart enough to be president. We could line all those guys up and shoot them. They clearly don't understand the way the world works. Did I say that? Scratch that from the recording. I don't want the deans hearing that I said that.
Oops, I think it's too late for that. And I think,
hell?
He doesn't want the deans to hear that. I'm hoping this guy gets fired, John. I hope they get rid of him.
He's on leave right now.
Nice.
So, yeah, this is somebody who should be fired. This is what you're talking to kids. You're basically telling kids that if they won't vote for Kamala Harris, that you should be shot. This is not what is growing intellectualism in our country. This is the dumbing down of America right here, where you're not allowed to have a critical thought on your own. It doesn't matter. Let's say, first of all, he has like this false dichotomy, right? Oh, you don't know how the world works, or you think that women are dumb if you won't vote for Harris. First of all, I do think that Harris is dumb, but it's not because I think that women are dumb in general. Harris is clearly dumb. Right. But on the other hand, you should be allowed to come into a classroom and say, you know what? I believe X, Y, or Z. And the professor is not supposed to argue with you about what you believe. He's supposed to make you knowledgeable about what his class subject area is supposed to teach you. So why are you arguing with these students? I mean, a lecture on politics by a college professor. I mean, come on. It's just, this is why people listen, kids are only going to college today because you can do it for free through college loans. And that way you don't have to go and join the workforce. That's why the majority of kids are going to school, because they're being told by their parents, this is your next logical step. But they don't realize, what a ripoff it is. Or they do.
Yeah.
They do as soon as they have to start paying on those student loans. And it's just this is coddling to the end. This is ruining our society. College is now ruining American society instead of contributing to it. That's a shame.
Yeah.
It's just a shame.
It is. And this is all the money that you spend to send your kids to college, and this is what you get,
Yeah. Garbage.
Yep. Wow. Anyway, that's the show, John. We are wrapping up at 1 hour and 15 minutes.
All right. Well, thank you for joining us on another episode of Unsanctioned America. We will see you probably tomorrow night for Unsanctioned Florida. That should be a great show. We have a lot of stuff to talk about.
Big show.
So thank you for joining us. Please like and share the show. Follow if you can. Go into your invites. Go check your invites if you're on Facebook and see that you've been invited. And please accept the invite to follow our show so that you get the notifications when we start up. Thanks. God bless. We'll see you soon.